Hello! After a short Christmas break, when we got distracted by New Year style items, we are going to continue working on a leaf as I've promised. An interesting event has taken place. I've been interviewed by Julia on Instagram. You can find the link below. I find it even more interesting to work now after I've seen many of you ladies. I've gotten acquainted with some on Instagram and seen their works, so the interview has brought many discoveries to me too. Thanks a lot to all of you for your heartfelt comments. Now I understand whom I'm doing it for, and I realized that you do need it. The topic of today's masterclass is such abandon or edging of a leaf. We've already discussed how to trim the edge with crosses like this, if you remember. We'll share the link to the masterclass on how to finish a leaf with crosses. Today I'm going to show you such an interesting option. Before we start trimming the edge with such abandon, I'd like to focus on the following fact. The neatness of this edging depends directly on the intervals between the coils in the last row of the item. Here the edging is rather dense because the intervals are small. You can see many various works of mine, my experiments. So I've noticed such a regular dependence. It often happens that the intervals between the coils are small, while here they become bigger, which leads to such gaps. So if you want such a dense edging, your task is making the intervals between the coils of the last row more or less similar, because you can hardly make them totally identical. I mean, the intervals mustn't be large here. So you have to add coils somewhere within this range if you want your edge to be dense. So let's start. I've woven the leaf. Now let's trim the edge. I perform the edging over 3 loops. I've woven until the end, after which I'm finishing the row without a tube of the base. Just lead a working tube behind 3 loops and lay it neatly. Lead behind the next 3 loops. Well, I've tried leading behind 2 loops and it's okay too. So you can try it the way you prefer. The only trouble is I wove the leaf quite a while ago and all these tubes are already dry and not flexible enough. As for the working tube, it is moistened, of course. Continue this way, leading a working tube through after every 3 loops. This way here. Lengthen the tube as usual here. Under the row, neatly. I push the joint inside a little to place it right under the row. Continue this way until the end of the row. When I reach the end of the first row of edging, I check. I've hogged 3 loops with the working tube everywhere. Here, if I hog 3 loops, I'll find the tube in the same point where I've started, which doesn't satisfy me. That's why here at the end I hog 2 loops. You should watch your pattern. The main task is to start the following row either to the left or to the right from the first loop. I've tried both. Now, because I've let the tube out here before the first loop of the edging, I'm going to lead every next loop of the second row before the previous one. Like this. Here is my loop. I'm leading a tube before it. Now I'm going to lengthen the tube and lead it before the next loop, here. I've reached the end of the second row and I'm leading a tube before the previous coils again. The coils are a bit shorter here. But as a rule, I start here at the leaf corner and the coils are placed rather dense here. So stepping aside from the pattern, hogging 2 coils instead of 3 for example, is least obvious in this point. So I've finished 2 rows. The third row of edging is easier to perform. If you look attentively, you can see the following picture. 2 coils and 1 missing. 2 coils present, 1 is missing. I mean, I lead new coils through these gaps. This is what you get after making the third coil. As you can see, the coils are distributed densely here, which makes the edging tight and nice looking. Further, the intervals between the coils are getting a little bigger. But it also depends... Well, the intervals between the coils are the most essential factor. But the tube thickness does matter as well. If you'd like your edging to be dense, you should make the intervals between the coils of the last row smaller. Well, you can take care of it in the last row but one. In this case, the last row will be prepared for neat edging. Let's lengthen the tube. This way I've reached the finish. Here I've got the last gap. The rest has been filled with coils densely. I'm performing the last coil. There are no more gaps to lead the tube through, so my current task is to hide the remaining tail neatly. Let's try it this way. That's all. Let's check for the last time. I can still smoothen it until it gets too dry. cut off the tail neatly and tuck it in a little bit. You know, I'm finally satisfied with the result. As you know, I'm not afraid of showing my experiments. Let's take a look at my pilot box. Finally, I've managed to calculate the intervals between the loops so that the edging is dense enough. It is the way it looks from the outside. Look at my previous experimental works. As you can see, there are some failures here. For this leaf, the intervals between the poles are a bit too big. Here, I mean. Here it is okay. So pay attention to this aspect while weaving. I mean, try to make the intervals between the loops here small enough. Well, that is what experiments are meant for. Actually, that's all. I've told and shown you everything I wanted to regarding the edging. In the next masterclass, I'm going to show you options of weaving. You've probably noticed that the leaf is of a bit irregular shape, prolonged. So the next masterclass will be devoted to various leaf shapes. The last thing to make will be weaving a handle. If you are not our subscriber yet and have seen this masterclass accidentally, you are welcome to subscribe to our channel. Click like as this helps to promote the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to be notified of our new masterclasses. See you!